something you mentioned was the limiting beliefs. How can someone continue to overcome those limiting beliefs that they have? Because from the coaching that I've had experience in, it's the most common obstacle for people to surpass their current blockers.
So it depends on what this blocker or limiting belief is, right? Mm-hmm. Like this whole like know thyself, right? Like you have to figure out what specifically is holding you back before you can move on, right? Because this is the thing that trips up a lot of people. They're looking for hacks or some prescribed way of doing things, and most of those don't apply to you. Mm-hmm. Right? Like you have to figure out what the fuck is holding you specifically back. Is it a limiting belief? Is it a toxic or maladaptive personal narrative, a story you're telling yourself about who you are, what you're capable of, the world around you, something like that? There are tons of different, very specific reasons that you are holding yourself back in some capacity. So before you can try to figure out what would work for you, you have to figure out what is your specific issue that you're struggling with, right? So I've talked about this, and I've written about as far as like what I call the 4 horsemen of fear. Yeah. Right. So these are just the 4 most common limiting beliefs that I consistently see people struggle with. So fear of failure, right, which we're all super familiar with. Like everybody's afraid that they're not good enough or not smart enough, or, it may not work out, right? That's super common. There's fear of ridicule, which is, criticism. What will my friends and family think or say, right? I especially see this a lot with content creators or aspiring writers or things like that. Like, well, I really want to put out YouTube videos, but what if, I don't feel like I have a good face for the camera? What will my friends think? Or what will my mom say? Fuck them is one, usually what I say, but I'm a little more blunt than most people. The third one is fear of uncertainty, right? And that's kind of what I was hitting on earlier of like, which platform should I use? Which, equipment should I buy? Which software, which this, which that, right? You're so overwhelmed. You get this whole paralysis by analysis, right? You're so afraid to make the wrong decision that you pre-optimize and you spend way too much time finding the perfect answer that you never actually do anything. You never go anywhere, right? And then the fourth one is fear of success, which doesn't make sense at first because you're like, why would I be afraid to achieve the thing I claim to want? Yeah. But for a lot of us, success represents a version of us or our life that we don't understand, right? Because if I've never achieved major success, then post-success me is a different person. I see success as a binary, as before and after. I only know before success me, right? Post-success me is a totally different person, right? And because I don't understand that version of myself, I'm afraid of it, right? Or some people believe they don't deserve success, or they believe that if they achieve success, they may lose their ambition, or they may become corrupted by power and influence, right? Or maybe it means that they've peaked in life and there's nothing else. What happens if you have, and I'm not saying this is an example because this isn't him, but like, say if you're like a Mr. Beast and you achieve insane world-renowned success by like 20 or 22, what do you do after that? Like a lot of people would think that you peaked at 22. Now, obviously that isn't him, right? Like he's killing it every fucking day. But some people are afraid to achieve that success because they get more wrapped up in striving than arriving, right? Like I just always just want to chase the thing. I don't actually want to catch the thing because once I catch it, what the fuck do I chase? Right. But if you talk to anybody who has achieved any semblance of major success, they will tell you like, look, man, once you scale that first mountain, you realize you're at the beginning of the mountain range. There's so much more shit, bigger shit that you can do now that you couldn't see, you couldn't even perceive as a possibility until you hit this first success, right? So these limiting beliefs, these fears are usually, again, in my experience, the root reason we don't achieve the things that we say we want because we're afraid of failure, ridicule, uncertainty, or success, right? And then these cause a lot of self-sabotaging behaviors, right? So it isn't that you're a perfectionist, like that's a load of shit, right? Everybody has a high bar for quality for themselves or their work or whatever. The difference is that you claiming to be a perfectionist is giving you an excuse to never hit publish, to never put your thing out into the world. Like, oh, it's got to, it can always be better. Nothing, perfection isn't a state. It isn't real, right? So if you were expecting perfection before you publish, you're never going to publish. But your excuse is, oh, well, I'm a perfectionist. Shut the fuck up. No, you're not. You're just afraid, right? Like versus can you publish and then iterate afterward? Can you improve based on feedback, right? That's it. You don't struggle with imposter syndrome. You're fucking afraid. You don't struggle with procrastination because as soon as there's a deadline, you get shit done. So your issue isn't procrastination. Your issue is you're fucking afraid of something. That procrastinating is helping you avoid the thing you're afraid of.
I hope that you have enjoyed this content. And if you've got value from it, please do help me in supporting the channel by hitting subscribe down below. I look forward to sharing more content with you soon. Take care.